Welcome back to CFB Nation. I am your host, Nino Brown, and I got my guy. He's back. Right? I haven't seen him a couple episodes. My man's back. D now, aka Mr. Get It Done. And when you see us on the screen, you already know what time it is. It's Devy Dollins time. D now, how we doing, my man?
Not too bad. Like you said, it's been a little bit, been kind of busy, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we're talking wide receivers in this one, right? I think a kid maybe not many are familiar with, but I think this might be the year in 2025 where they get familiar with Jordan Shipp out of North Carolina. Uh 6'1", 190 pounds, 4-star recruit, right? Went into kind of a crowded room this season. But we'll get to that later on. He was a 22 ranked wide receiver in the 24 class. He's number 5 ranked player in North Carolina. He's out of Charlotte, North Carolina, went to Providence Day School. 3-time All-State, right? 2-time team captain. Played in the All-American Bowl his senior season. His father was a wide receiver for the Florida Gators, Steve Shipp, in 1990. Nothing crazy, but he played at the collegiate level. So this kid's got talent. When you look at some film and you look at the way he plays on the field. I got a lot of different vibes from him, right? A lot of things jumped off the screen to me. Um, but I think when you look at it a little bit more and more, you start to see his game. He has a high ceiling. Talk to me about this Providence Day and what he did over there.
Yeah, so 3-year starter at Providence Day. Sophomore year, 45 receptions, 650 yards, 8 touchdowns, average 14 yards per catch. Junior year really took it to the next level, 62 receptions, almost 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, 17 and a half yards per catch. And then his senior season kind of took it to another level, I guess, if that's even possible. 66 receptions, about 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 18 yards per catch. And then on his career, he also had 6 kick returns for 117 yards and then 8 punt returns for about 70 yards. So I adding in those special teams, it kind of sticks out to me that he's more than just an offensive player. He kind of gets on the field in any sort of way to kind of help his team, which always sticks out to me.
Yeah, I love that he's kind of like just that any way possible to get on the field. You need me to play, coach. I'm ready to rock. You see the stats, and then you see a couple. In his high school film, they had a couple of special teams clips there. He doesn't seem super duper fast, right? But it's like techno ball. He just kind of just pulls away
He's
slowly from.
football fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, wow, that guy just looks like he's moving slow, but he's separating from this dude as he's continuing to go downfield. It's kind of crazy, but seems as though a lot of the other schools kind of felt the same way as we're feeling about him. Talk to me about the offers that he got coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so he had 19 offers. He had Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, Michigan, where he was recruited by Ron Bellamy, South Carolina, Maryland, your school, Boston College, and then North Carolina, where Lonnie Galloway was his main recruiter. And obviously, he ended up choosing UNC. Enrolled early, enrolled in February of 24. So another thing, I like to see guys who are able to enroll early,
Mm-hmm.
kind of gets their feet wet quicker adjusting. Also leads to more playing time younger. So not a lot of people are a fan of that, but I am.
I think getting in there as early as you can seems as though in like probably the last 5 to 10 years, it's kind of been like a bonus. Like like you said, like back in the day, not many people were a fan of it, but it
Hmm.
seems as though now it's a way to get in there, already get familiar, get acclimated with the system, find out what your role's gonna actually kind of be, early and run with it. So I'm with it.
I was to say this year we saw a lot of it too with the bowl practices, a lot of the big name recruits
Yes,
being able to take part of that. So
yeah, and local kid, right? Out in Charlotte, all the schools locally were battling. It's surprising to me. I know coming off the Drake May, you know, success at quarterback, surprising. With all the kind of questions going into it with the quarterback department there and an older coach that he chose North Carolina. It seemed NC State at that kind of when he was committed, had been like more of a rising school out of the Carolinas for all the to obviously South Carolina now
yeah,
on the up and up. But they had they kind of had a stacked wide receiver room there in the last 2 years, so I can see why he chose North Carolina to have an opportunity. When I look at this kid's game, I said already kind of earlier, he's football fast. He doesn't appeal to you. Like if you're a guy that watches it and wants to see a speedster or a super twitched up guy, maybe this isn't the guy for you. I write, he's like Coming to America. He's got a semi twitch. He's not crazy, but he has enough twitch where he gets enough separation. Like I said, and now he's starting to create moving down the field. He's got good size and 6 foot 190, but he's only been 1 year in a college weight room. Give this kid another year and a half. He's probably going to get to 200 pounds. I feel he's probably got a little bit more growth left in him. I think by the time he gets that NFL, time to go on, whether it be junior or senior, probably 6'1", 6'2", right around there, 200, 205 pounds. Man, there's a plethora of guys at the next level at that size that have had a lot of success that haven't been super duper twitchy or super fast. The field technician, you get him out there and he starts working, like he just knows where to be, knows when to get in and out of his cuts. Does those very well. Crisp. Field general, again, like he's out there. He's good in the open field. He's great, great awareness of the boundary. He lined up a lot this year for UNC, but in high school, he played kind of all over the field. Didn't matter. Good contested catch guy, always high pointing the ball. So a lot of these things I like in a wide receiver. High yards per catch. That dude had it. Contested catch, good leverage in and out of routes. And he's great after the catch. You know what I mean? Like whether it be on the side, they work himself back in to get more yards, or it's set himself up where he gets 2 feet down. Like I said, boundary awareness. There's a lot of things to his game that I really like, and I think it might be time this year for him kind of to break out. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw, or what you think that I might have been hit on and didn't hit on, and then we'll get into what he did this year as a freshman.
Yeah. So one thing that I really noticed, especially watching a lot of his high school tape, his boundary awareness. I think that stuck out a lot to me. In the end zone, granted, it was his highlight tape, so a lot of it was going to be there, but he always made sure he had both toes down or both feet down on the sideline or inbounds. Almost everything was a contested catch that he had on his tape. And like you said, high pointed everything that he could. And then just like you said, really crisp routes, which is super impressive for being such a young kid.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's not super quick, so you don't get the but he has he's no wasted movement, does what he needs to do, gets in and out. One thing I noticed, and you could kind of see it in it was a couple of games. It's the James Madison game we won. Does pretty good with the back shoulder catch. Like I think he does very well with that. I think that when given the opportunity to be a guy that can be on the outside and kind of do his thing, you might see a little more of that. And whoever's going to be the quarterback for North Carolina this year, I think if they can throw it into a bucket, this might be a guy you could be throwing into a bucket too. And these ropes down the sideline. So I like him a lot. I think there's a lot of potential there. Talk to me about freshman year. Like I said, didn't get a lot of opportunity, a lot of consistent quarterback play, but we saw something.
Yeah, so this year, 12 games, 16 targets, only had 9 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown. But on those 9 receptions, it was 12.7 yards per catch. He had almost half his yards per rack. He had 54 yards yak, 7 first downs. He was 3 for 5 in his contested catch opportunities. And he played majority in the slot at 88%.
Now, like I said, I mentioned it earlier in the show, he was mostly on the outside in high school. I think due to, senior guys in front of him, so a little more experience, with, the room that was there. And they kind of returned. J.J. Jones returns as a senior. I know he's excited about Belichick being the head coach. He's already kind of spoke about it. He had, 36 receptions, 581 yards, 6 touchdowns. Another guy is kind of a deep threat, 16 yards per catch. I would go with he's going to be wide receiver 1 for them this year to start. But we'll have to see how the season progresses. Kobe Paysaw, 21 receptions, almost 400 yards. Another guy, 17 yards per catch. This guy I thought was going on somewhere else. He had entered the portal, right? He was one of the first guys to enter the portal early. Once Mac had got fired, and then he withdrew his name. So it seems as though he's going to return. So those are going to be your Elderman, in the group. Then you have Christian Hamilton, Chris Culliver, Paul Billups, collectively had about 300 yards and 20 catches. You have Jarvis Green. He's a sophomore. This is where Isaiah Johnson comes in from Michigan State, right? He's a redshirt junior. He had almost 300 yards in a room that didn't have much. And then you have a kid that was a redshirt freshman, and Jason Robinson is 3-star. He's a former top 75 wide receiver in 24 class out of San Juan Hills. I think this is the kid that might push a guy here a little bit. I think Shipp has more in the route tree. I think he brings more to the table. But Jason Robinson is a little bit of a speedster, right? And it's a guy, especially if you're going to be working in the slot, that you might like a little bit more, depending on what your flavor is in the coach department. I like Shipp's game. I think Shipp's universal, like we spoke about earlier. He's a special teams guy as well. He can play anywhere needed. He can line up inside and outside, where to take the versatility will be healthy. Listen, Kobe Paysar has been around for a while. He's an ex-Alabama recruit. He's kind of another guy like Mario Rooms that never really lived up to that hype coming out of high school, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of on his last leg. So I could see Jordan Shipp pushing him for those wide receiver 2 reps in spring camp. And then all of a sudden, here we go. Now it's a battle. Who's wide receiver 2? Who's wide receiver 3? So I think he's got plenty of talent. We're just going to see how this spring kind of unravels. With the freshman coming in, we've seen last year, he was a freshman. It's really hard, I think, at North Carolina for these freshman kids to come in here and get reps, get their foot in the door. They're not really getting these 4- and 5-star wide receivers, right? I'm not saying, they're not good, talented kids, but they're not the type of pedigree where it's like they demand early reps in this, right off the rip. So I think between, Evan Hayes, Medrick Tucker, and Shenard Clouder, they may see a Jordan Shipp type season. I don't think that they're big threats to his playing time or him getting to be able to eat at the big boys table. I talked about what I liked about him. You spoke about what you liked about him. Kind of a mixed bag I got here. I'm kind of torn between what I like. I like some of your comps as well. I see him on the page here. So I think this is more of a ceiling and floor type comparison for me. I think if he checks, all the boxes, he could be one guy. I think if he hits, floor, and I'm probably cool with it because, outside of health concerns, he's had a pretty decent NFL career. Darius Slayton out of Auburn, right? He had 80 receptions, 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns over 2 seasons at Auburn. He was a 5th-round pick in 2019 to NFL, in the NFL to the Giants. Had a good year, his rookie year. Then he had injuries, right? Then when they were hurting for a wide receiver, he seemed to be the only guy that was consistent for like a year or two. Again, injuries. I don't know if he's ever played a full season at the NFL level besides his rookie year. But his game at Auburn, where it was, get in front of the guy, make them big plays, contested catch guy, was always a red zone threat. Was never like the real one, but it was always able to eat and get his. Like, and I think in Auburn, he maybe had like 650 yards each year, but he had 5 to 7 touchdowns each season that he was a factor over there. And then it took him a while at the NFL level. Seems to be a guy now because there's a lot of pieces around him, so he doesn't have to be the dude, but he's a legit guy at the NFL. Rashad Bateman, out of Minnesota, he was a contested catch guy. He was a boundary dude. Kind of a similar build. If he could get, like I said, to that 210, 205 mark at the collegiate level, kind of would be right around where Bateman is now. Hey, and like I said, sometimes it takes a little bit longer for guys to adjust, but I see a lot of similarities in their game to Shipp, where I think, ceiling floor, I think that's kind of, I'd be okay if he falls into that category. What are your thoughts on my 2 guys? And give me yours.
I like the Slayton comp of your 2. Extremely underrated, especially now, considering the dumpster fire that the Giants have been over the last couple seasons.
Right.
Doesn't get enough credit. I'm not going to touch Bateman. I'm out on Bateman.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. So my comps, again, ceiling, floor, either way, I think it's really good. My first comp is Golden Tate out of Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a sneaky fast guy, but was an elite route runner. We have it on here, short and intermediate killer. That's how Tate lasted so long in the NFL. Really strong hands too. You weren't gonna knock any balls out of his hands once he got hands on them. And then my other one, and this is solely off of watching his highlight tape, is Garrett Wilson. Because when Garrett Wilson came on for Ohio State, it was the one catch where he surfed over that Clemson guy's back in the playoff or in the bowl game. That's how everyone knew who Garrett Wilson was. And when you watch the highlight tape, a lot of Shipp's catches are mossing defenders. And that immediately just screamed Garrett Wilson to me. And again, semi-twitch, Wilson may have the edge on him speed-wise, but a lot of the ways that they run, body size is almost identical. And then again, like I said, high pointing everything that's thrown to him. It just screamed Garrett Wilson to me.
Yeah, I didn't mention him. I was talking about attributes. You kind of brought it up, and with the Wilson comp, he's a hands guy. He's strong hands. He attacks the ball, which I like. And that's something Garrett Wilson did, and it was kind of spoke about a lot when in the combine, how he was just boom attacking the ball. A lot of these guys let the ball come, and he was already out there getting the ball, and it's a good trait that you want, especially in that contested catch game. You want the guy that's going to go up there and get it at its highest point where anybody else can't, and have strong hands. Like he's got, you could probably catch an egg without cracking it. You know what I mean? He's that type of dude. Garrett Wilson will obviously be the ceiling, right?
Oh, obviously,
right.
I mean, a floor of Golden Tate ain't a bad floor either.
No, and Golden Tate had a long career. Another guy kind of towards the latter end of his career caught some injuries, right? But he was a guy like. Again, something I wrote down in the attributes was, short and intermediate killer. If he beat you on a play action, he could beat you over the top and he could, get them deeper. But he was a guy, between 5 to 15 yards, between the hashes, he could eat you up. Shipp is kind of that same way. Again, had to play in the slot this year after mostly playing on the outside. So he's a versatile and he's learning on the fly. He's a field general. We've said that and seen that multiple times in his film. So I think this kid in 2025 is going to have an opportunity. Will he be wide receiver 1 in 2025? I'm not sure. I think J.J. Jones holds that crown right now. Just leadership qualities as well. So it's going to be hard to take that away from him. But I do think that there will be more manufactured targets for this gentleman. And I do think that there's a very good chance that him and Peso could be fighting for that wide receiver too. I don't think he'll be lined up 88% in the slot in 2025.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. If he stays 88% or around there in the slot, in Bill Belichick's offense, what slot receiver does he remind you the most of?
Like
Danny, Welker, or Julian?
More Amendola. Because Amendola was football fast, right? He wasn't super fast. And Welker and Edelman had that speed to them, that little squirrel quickness to him. You know what I mean? But Amendola could play on the outside, could play on the inside, right? He was that versatile guy out of all three of them. I think he played more outside than any of the other two guys did anyway. But yeah, I would say Amendola. And people be like, I'm just saying, in the Belichick system, Danny Amendola, even at the Rams, right? When he went to the Rams, he did pretty good too. So I could see him in Belichick's system. If he stays this, I don't think he will. I think they're going to use him all over the field. But if they do keep him in, I think Jason Robinson is going to be most of that slot guy. I just have that feeling. If he could be looking at least another 30 to 35 targets, at least in that Belichick system. You know what I mean? And how it's run. So I think the opportunity is there for him. I think he's knocking at the door. He's hungry. Could he be the next Devy Darling? We shall see. I'm Nino Brown. That is my guy D now. He's back, better than ever. It's CFB Nation, and we out.